ComfortTV.channel news, bringing you verified and balanced news from Nigeria and around the world. My name is Faith Kevin. Thank you for joining us. In the headlines, House of Representatives reject terrorist rehabilitation, calls for justice for victims. Court orders federal and state governments to provide free compulsory education for Nigerian children. Minister Bianca Ojukwu advises peaceful engagement on Mazi Kanu's imprisonment. Nigeria pursues historic health funding as Minister Mohammed Bade pushes reforms. Bayelsa launches state-owned airline with inaugural Flight Alive and Thrive, urges renewed commitment to maternal and child nutrition in Nigeria. On business news, organized private sector urges National Assembly to withdraw proposed excise amendment on non-alcoholic drinks. Rayan to deploy renewable energy solutions to 3,000 Nigerian SMEs. On the foreign scene, U.S. commitment to coordinate on peace efforts. Quebec expands secularism law, restricts public prayer and religious symbols. On sports, NFF in fresh 1.4 billion naira FIFA Women World Cup scandal. Nottingham Forest boss reviews Aina Awoniyi's injuries could prompt January transfer. Now the news. The Nigerian House of Representatives has strongly opposed any government policy aimed at rehabilitating terrorists while victims of their attack remain neglected, warning that such measures could worsen insecurity and send the wrong message to the nation's youth. Lawmakers emphasized that government efforts should prioritize justice and support for victims rather than extending sympathy to those who commit violent crimes. Members of the House also called for comprehensive reforms in Nigeria's security architecture, including strengthening community policing, improving border control, regulating arms, and enhancing intelligence operations. The need for technology-driven security strategies and stronger support for communities affected by terrorism and banditry was highlighted as critical to national stability. Concerns were raised regarding international perceptions of religious violence in Nigeria, with lawmakers urging proper documentation and public hearings to ensure accurate representation of the country's security situation abroad. The House recommended establishing a parliamentary committee to conduct a thorough public hearing on security issues, including alleged religious killings, with findings to be communicated to international stakeholders. Lawmakers advocated for the legalization of state policing, intensified intelligence operations in remote areas, and faster implementation of the national counter-terrorism strategy to improve coordination among security agencies, enhance community engagement, and strengthen intelligence sharing. The Lagos Division of the Federal High Court has ruled that the federal government, all 36 states, and the Federal Capital Territory have a legal obligation to provide free, compulsory, and universal basic education for all Nigerian children of primary and junior secondary school age. The judgment followed a suit filed by human rights advocates and civil society groups challenging the failure to ensure access to basic education and the underutilization of federal grants earmarked for education. The court held that citizens and groups have the right to challenge violations affecting broad societal interests, particularly those concerning vulnerable groups such as children. While the Universal Basic Education UBE Act 2004 makes certain provisions enforceable, the court clarified that federal and state governments are bound by statutory obligations to provide basic education. The ruling also noted that while states are encouraged to contribute counterpart funding to access federal grants, failure to do so does not constitute illegality. However, state remains independently responsible under the UBE Act and their respective child right laws to ensure that basic education is provided. This landmark judgment reinforces the legal mandate for governments of all levels to prioritize education for Nigerian children and ensure that citizens have recourse to enforce these rights through public interest litigation. The Minister of State for Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Mrs. Bianca Ojukwu, has called on the people of the Southeast to use dialogue and peaceful methods in addressing the recent imprisonment of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. Mrs. Ojukwu made the remarks at the 14th edition of the Dim Chukwuemeka Odumegwu Ojukwu Memorial Day celebration held at the Ojukwu Memorial Library in Owerri. She emphasized that despite the court's sentencing of Mazi Kanu, peaceful engagement with government authorities could help secure his release from the Sokoto Correctional Center. During the event, Mrs. Ojukwu also called for a minute of silence for the late BBC journalist Frederick Forsyth, who covered the Nigerian Civil War between 1967 and 1970. She stressed that violence is not the solution and encouraged community members to engage lawmakers, governors, and even the president through peaceful means to address the situation. The minister urged the public to meet with National Assembly members and state governors and to plan collective actions aimed at resolving the matter amicably ahead of the Christmas season. Mohammed Pate pushes reforms. Nigeria's Minister of Health and Social Welfare. He has announced that the federal government is pursuing the highest health allocations in the country's history, alongside measures to end wasteful spending and strengthen accountability across the health system. Speaking at the 2025 National Health Dialogue hosted by Premiums, in partnership with the Center for Journalism Innovation and Development, CJID, Minister Pate highlighted decades of underinvestment, weak governance, and unclear responsibilities as key factors behind Nigeria's poor health outcomes. He noted that public spending has historically been low, with households bearing most of the burden, resulting in inequality, outdated equipment, weak infrastructure, and staffing shortages. The dialogue themed Evidence, Innovation, and Financing for a Healthier Nigeria convened government officials, global health leaders, journalists, civil society groups, and innovators to examine systemic gaps. Minister Pate emphasized the need for accountability and collaboration across federal, state, and local governments, stressing that the Bola Tinubu administration is prioritizing health as a national agenda. The minister also addressed structural challenges, noting that local governments are meant to manage primary health care, states handle secondary care, and the federal government to assist tertiary services and policy. Bayelsa State marked a historic milestone with the inaugural flight of its newly acquired aircraft, which took off from Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, Abuja, and landed at Bayelsa Airport amid a traditional water cannon salute. Governor Doye Diri, along with former Deputy Governor Rear Admiral Boribioga, John Jonah, a member of the state's National Assembly caucus, and other dignitaries were on board. The flight underscores the state government's commitment to connecting Bayelsa to other parts of Nigeria and expanding its economic opportunities. The aircraft, set to operate under the name Bayelsa Air, will serve routes including Abuja and Lagos, with plans to extend services to other Niger Delta states. Officials hailed the acquisition as a step forward in strengthening the state's aviation capacity and fostering development. The event also recognized the contributions of past governors and private partners who facilitated the project, with assurances that airline will deliver reliable services that support commerce, mobility, and regional growth. Maternal and child nutrition in Nigeria, Alive and Thrive, has called for sustained collaboration to strengthen maternal and child nutrition across the country, highlighting the achievements of its 4-year nutrition program at the National Dissemination Event for the Accelerating Scale of Maternal, Infant, and Child Nutrition Projects in Abuja. Officials reviewed the initiative's contribution to policy development system, strengthening service delivery and community empowerment. The program has strengthened nutrition policies and coordinating structures, expanding access to multiple micronutrient supplements for pregnant women, trained and mentored frontline healthcare workers, and community organizations, and optimized service delivery in primary healthcare settings. It has also promoted best practices in breastfeeding and complementary feeding. Country Rep of FH1360, Dr. Victor Ogbodo, urged government partners, donors, and civil society to reaffirm their commitment to empowering communities, scaling up proven nutrition interventions, and further strengthening health systems. Chairman of the House Committee on Nutrition and Food Security, Honorable Chike Okafo, pledged to deepen collaboration with development partners and government agencies to improve maternal and child nutrition. This is ComfortTV.channel news. We'll return shortly with business, foreign, and sports news. Many thanks for staying tuned to ComfortTV.channel news. In the world of business, the Organized Private Sector of Nigeria (OPS), comprising the Nigerian Association of Chambers of Commerce, Industry, Mines and Agriculture (NASIMA), the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria (MAN), the Nigerian Employers Consultative Association (NECA), National Association of Small and Medium Enterprises (MSMEs) (NASME), and the National Association of Small Scale Industrialists (NASI, has called on the National Assembly to withdraw the proposed amendment to the Customs, Excise and Tariff Bill and maintain current excise rates on non-alcoholic drinks (NADS). OPS argued that the draft amendment conflicts with the federal government's fiscal reform objectives and contains significant legal and administrative gaps. The group emphasized that while the NAD sector supports government revenue and public health goals, any policy must be holistic, harmonized, and context-appropriate, ensuring industrial stability, job retention, and affordability. OPS warned that the steep excise increase would raise operating costs, reduce capital utilization, drive up consumer prices, and strain households and small businesses. It noted that the beverage industry supports 1.5 million jobs, drives backward integration under the Nigerian Sugar Master Plan, and contributes 40 to 45% of gross revenues in taxes. A sudden levy, the group said, could weaken the sector, reduce VAT and CIT collections, and disrupt medium-term FAAC revenue stability. The group expressed willingness to engage lawmakers, fiscal agencies, and civil society to ensure any excise reform supports investment, employment, and long-term revenue. The Renewable Energy Association of Nigeria (REAN) has announced plans to improve energy access by deploying renewable power solutions to 2,000 small and medium enterprises (SMEs) over the next 2 years. The initiative aims to ease energy challenges faced by small businesses across the country, particularly in the wake of the 2023 fuel subsidy removal. REAN President Mr. Ayo Ademilwa revealed the plan during the 2025 Renewable Energy Conference in Abuja, themed Stronger Together, Advancing Energy Access Through Policy, Finance and Inclusion. The conference brought together policymakers, investor manufacturers, and civil society to explore pathways for financing policy reform and inclusive energy solutions. Mr. Ademulua highlighted that over 85 million Nigerians still lack reliable electricity, with SMEs contributing nearly 48% of the nation's GDP. The project, in partnership with the Small and Medium Enterprise Development Agency of Nigeria (SMEDAN), will provide clean energy systems, training, and technical support to strengthen service delivery, empower communities, and promote inclusive growth. On the foreign scene, Sudan has welcomed the United States' assurance that Washington will consult with the Sudanese government before taking any steps related to peace in the country. Deputy Foreign Minister Muayiwa Usman Khalid made the remarks following a meeting in Port Sudan between Transitional Sovereignty Council Chairman Abdel Fattah al-Burhan and Norwegian Deputy Foreign Minister and Special Envoy for Sudan, Mr. Andreas Kravik. Mr. Kravik clarified that there is no new U.S. peace document concerning Sudan beyond the ceasefire proposal previously presented by the International Quartet. He dismissed reports of multiple U.S. submissions as a misunderstanding and confirmed that the U.S. advisor for Middle East and African Affairs, Masad Bulus, had been contacted for clarification. Deputy Foreign Minister Khalid emphasized that Sudan understood from the U.S. clarification conveyed by the Norway that all future peace initiatives must be coordinated directly with the Sudanese government and require its approval. Moving on, the Canadian province of Quebec has introduced new legislation to strengthen state secularism, restricting public prayer and limiting the exclusive offering of religion-based meals in public institutions. The bill expands the province's 2019 religious symbols law, which already prevents judges, police officers, teachers, and public servants from wearing symbols such as the kippah, turban, or hijab while at work. The new measures, part of Bill 9, extend the ban on religious symbols to daycare staff, bars collective religious practices in public spaces without municipal approval, and prevents students and staff from wearing face coverings in educational settings. The government says the reform upholds individual and collective rights, citing recent protests as justification for limits on public prayers. Critics, including the National Council of Canadian Muslims and the opposition party Quebec, argue that the law targets minorities and fosters division. Bill 21, Quebec's original secularism law, invoked the notwithstanding clause to override constitutional protections for religion and expressions. The Supreme Court of Canada is set to review the law next year. Quebec officials defend the legislation as essential for maintaining state neutrality, aligning with similar rules in countries like France. On sports, former Super Falcons head coach Randy Waldrum has raised fresh concerns about the Nigerian Football Federation's handling of funds provided by FIFA for the team's preparation for the 2023 Women's World Cup in Australia and New Zealand. Coach Waldrum, whose team reached the second round before being eliminated by England on penalties, alleged in a viral video that the NFF failed to release critical funding required for adequate pre-tournament planning. Coach Waldrum claimed that FIFA had disbursed $960,000 to Nigeria as early as October 2022 to support the team's preparation programs. Yet the Super Falcons, according to him, received none of the expected logistical support. He expressed concerns that the absence of a November training camp, poor travel arrangements for friendly matches, and overall inadequate preparations were direct consequences of the Federation's failure to deploy the funds for their intended purpose. He also pointed to FIFA's broader support mechanism, noting that the world body typically covers business class travel for teams that cannot afford it upfront, with deductions made from World Cup revenues. Coach Waldrum argued that this system meant the NFF had no financial justification for the logistical shortcomings that affected the Falcons' preparation period, including long travel hours, delayed arrivals, and wasted training windows. The former coach further highlighted staffing deficiencies within the team's World Cup delegation. While FIFA allows countries to travel with up to 22 technical personnel, Nigeria reportedly arrived at the tournament with only about half that number. His remarks have reignited public scrutiny of the NFF's administrative practices ahead of major tournaments. The controversy adds to long-standing concerns about transparency, planning, and funding accountability within Nigerian football, especially at a time when the women's team has consistently delivered strong performances on the global stage. Nottingham Forest may be pushed into the January transfer market as long-term injuries to Super Eagles duo Ola Aina and Taiwo Awoniyi continue to limit squad depth. The club, already undergoing major coaching transitions this season, has struggled to maintain stability as both players remain unavailable at a crucial phase of the campaign. Forest began the season under Nuno Espirito Santo, who relied heavily on Aina and Awoniyi, but his dismissal and the brief unsuccessful tenure of Ange Postecoglou created further disruption, with Postecoglou departing after a poor run. Sean Dyche has since taken charge and stabilized performances, winning 3 of 6 games. However, the new manager has yet to work with a fully fit squad, hampering his ability to access and build a balanced team. Although he has resumed light work on the grass following surgery, he is still some distance from full team training. Awoniyi, who initially benefited from increased minutes on the Dyche, has also suffered a setback due to injury, showing his momentum after a promising return. This has left Dyche without the depth required to rotate effectively during a demanding run of fixtures, prompting internal discussions over potential signings in the upcoming transfer window. Forest recruitment team is already evaluating available options as the club seeks to safeguard its Premier League campaign. While January is traditionally a difficult market for acquiring top-quality reinforcements, the scale of ongoing injuries may leave Forest with little choice but to pursue additional cover. And that's our news bulletin this hour. Before we go, a recap of our top stories. House of Representatives rejects terrorist rehabilitation, calls for justice for victims. Court orders federal and state governments to provide free compulsory education for Nigerian children. Minister Bianca Ojukwu advises peaceful engagement on Mazi Kanu's imprisonment. Nigeria pursues historic health funding as Minister Mohammed Pate pushes reforms. Bayelsa launches state-owned airline with inaugural flight. Alive and Thrive urges renewed commitment to maternal and child nutrition in Nigeria. On business, organized private sector urges National Assembly to withdraw proposed excise amendment on non-alcoholic drinks. On the foreign scene, Sudan welcomes U.S. commitment to coordinate on peace efforts. And on sports, NFF in fresh 1.4 billion naira FIFA Women World Cup scandal. Thanks for watching. For more news, exclusive interviews and more, follow us online at ComfortTV.channel on all platforms. Remember to like and share our videos, subscribe to our channel and click on the notification bell so you don't miss out on future updates. My name is Faith Kevin. Until next time, stay informed, stay connected.